And welcome back, Super Rugby! It is time to go back to round 15 of the superest competition in all of club rugby. It is Super Rugby. It is back. Internationals are gone and forgotten. It is back to the club scene. It is the 15th round of Super Rugby, and we have 9 glorious matches coming your way this weekend. So, 9 matches, that's a lot of information to go through. So let's get straight into it. Opening game of the Super Rugby return is the Chiefs up against the Crusaders. Now, who's the home team? Who really knows, because it's in Fiji, Suva to be exact. And the Chiefs, they're considered the home team for this game against the Crusaders. But what a way to kick back in to Super Rugby. Now there's a pile of All Blacks in both of these sides that are coming back into the mix. The question I have most about this one is how many of these international players that have been with the All Blacks but not actually got game time, how they're going to go back into the whole blend of things, not playing for 4 weeks. I mean, the likes of Damien McKenzie, Tamani Valu hasn't played a huge amount either. Nautai's probably not going to be fit to come back. There's a lot of names in Chiefs jerseys that have been just training for 4 weeks as well. Then you got the others, we'll probably mention this quite a bit, but the others who have played a lot of rugby, the likes of Sam Cane, for example, who will be coming back into this team, and will he be up to that level of All Blacks straight away after 3 pretty tough matches against Wales? As for the selection process though, there's been a bit of a surprise with Aaron Cruden being left out in favour of the amazing Stephen Donald from that game against Wales by the Chiefs. What a masterclass that man put on, and pretty much single-handedly destroyed the Welsh in that midweek game. Now he's starting against the Crusaders. How will he step up back to Super Rugby level? Although the way he played against Wales, who knows how he's going to come back. The Crusaders, they're going to be without Ryan Crotty, who is not in the side. So this just points so many ways into being a fantastic way to restart Super Rugby in Suva. A fantastic place to get their Super Rugby match. Of course, Nemani Nadolo, he is back in the side as well, of course, for the Crusaders, and he is back home as well. So he's going to want to impress in front of all his family and friends in Fiji. I think this is going to be an epic game, and it's quite cool. It's actually on at the normal time as it would be, 7:30 Friday night. Cannot wait for that one. Now, as always, we're going to continue on the prediction point scoring table for the rest of the season. So if you're watching through today's video, listening away, sipping on a cup of whatever you drink, don't forget to put your comments about who you think is going to win each match. Put your picks in, and of course, the best one, as always, will be selected at the end for a special mention in the review, which will be coming your way mid-next week. So, my prediction for this matchup is going to go to the Crusaders. 31-27. I think that the Cantabrians are going to get the job done against the Chiefs. I don't know why I think that. I just have this gut feeling the Crusaders are really a side that comes so much up to their best in the latter parts of a Super Rugby season. They were looking so good before the break, and I think they're going to continue on with that form and take a cheeky little win away from the Chiefs in this one. It's going to be a classic though, I cannot wait. It's going to kick Super Rugby back into gear in an absolute flash. Okay, second match of the weekend, we're off to Canberra, where the Brumbies are at home. They are facing the Queensland Reds. Now, I've been seeing a lot around the news today about the Queensland Reds. They've got a debutant at fullback. They've got Leroy Houston coming into the reserves as well as the Tongan Thor, as they call him. He is in the reserves as well. Interesting to see how they go together. Of course, Houston played for the Reds in 2011. So he's returning back to where it all began for him. So the Reds facing the Brumbies in a away match. They're visiting Reds, we look back before the break and you would say easily the Brumbies will win this one all day long, but I'm really questioning these Wallaby players coming back, and there's a lot of them in this Brumbies side, and I'm just wondering how much the effect of that England series is going to hurt the Brumbies. Are they going to be like we've seen a little bit from the Chiefs and the Crusaders? Their international players may get a bit of a rest, maybe an appearance off the bench, but they'll be keeping things relatively with the players in the club already over the last 4 weeks. That wouldn't surprise me either, but I think the Brumbies still would be favourites, but where is the headspace going to be at for those international players? And that's the contrast between the two sides as well. The Reds are fresh. They've been pretty much all their team together. How many Reds are in the Wallaby side? I think, Frisbee, and is that it? There must be a couple more, but you can easily see that most of this team, 95% of it even, are all together, still playing together for the Reds. So that'll do them a world of good, that is for sure. But despite all that I've been saying, I do think the Reds do have a sneaky chance of possibly tumbling over this one against the Brumbies, but I think the Brumbies will come out on top. My score prediction is 36 points to 19. The Reds will go down, but I think they may give the Brumbies a little bit of a fright before all is said and done. Okay, so that's us done for Friday night. We move into Saturday, our third match of the weekend, and the Sunwolves are in action up against the Waratahs. And oh, how quickly you forget about the teams in Super Rugby. The Sunwolves, of course. I forgot about the Sunwolves and all they've done this season. Nothing. But this is a massive test to back up for the Sunwolves, who have so many international representative sides playing in the Super Rugby for the first time. It's a new level for them. Then they've got internationals. Then they've got to go back. Are these Japanese and Sunwolves players up to the standard of doing that? Are they up to the rigours of professional full Super Rugby players? That is a big question that I'm going to follow through quite a lot of these matches, is how their international stars, how their international players recover, recuperate, and blend back in to the team. That is going to be the ultimate question for me. For the Waratahs, it's really simple. It's completely simple for them. They've got to win. Now, they were a bit shaky before the break. They had a real lull in their season as well, but they did come back into form. They got a couple of big wins as well, and they were teetering. They're going to continue to teeter over that 4-week period we've just had, and they'll be absolutely itching to storm back into it. Now, I think they're one of these players, probably with the better performing ones as well, when you look at the likes of Falau, and Foley wasn't too bad either. They're the ones that are going to really steer the ship, and if they're looking all right, it's going to be good news for the Waratahs side. As you'd expect, they need the win. The Waratahs, although they're travelling away to Tokyo, I think they'll still be too good for the Sunwolves, but I do hope the Sunwolves give them 100,000,000% like they do every other match, and do give them a little bit of a fright. Remind them that Super Rugby is not easy. Once again, the Waratahs, they're a team that has been rather hot and cold this year, but I think they're going to get the win 42-22 over the Sunwolves. Following that, we move into our fourth match of the weekend. Over to Wellington we go now, where the Hurricanes are up against the Blues. And this is another big matchup as well. I think this one could be quite an interesting one. It's been an international break for the Hurricanes players that has been massive for them. You look at the players, especially Barrett and Savia, that's Artie Savia I'm speaking of here, have been phenomenal, and I think they've probably been two of the more impressive, especially Barrett over the international break, that has really performed to his potential, and if anything, he's raised his stocks internationally about the player that he is. I think he's going to come back to Super Rugby, and he's going to continue that great form. The man that we haven't mentioned, of course, Julian Savia. I think he's missing the bus at the moment. He needs to find some form. I don't know what's going on with his headspace at the moment, but there's a lot of talk about that in the media. Whatever's going on, Julian, the Hurricanes, I know, are a team that will be backing him 100,000,000,000,000%, because he's like their own child. He will get game time if he needs game time, and I'm sure we'll see the best of Julian come out throughout the remainder of Super Rugby. But he's going to be key Barrett needs Xavier outside him. He needs all the big guns, and they're going to be there. And I think the Hurricanes will come out of international rugby period, and they'll be like, yeah, we've got our internationals back. Whereas pretty much every other team will be like, do we put these guys in? Do we leave them out? What are we going to do? Are they ready? Do they need a break? I think the Hurricanes will be ready to go. They need to shove these guys straight back in and really make the most of their good form. The Blues, on the other hand, they're not getting too many players back. Kaino was right. Famuina, good player. Of course, Moala's out injured, so they won't be getting him back at all. Their All Black players have been all right, but they need to continue where they left off. I think they're a decent side by Super Rugby standards, but in New Zealand, they are getting completely left behind. But I think the Blues are a team that is going to be the spoilers. They're going to be the ones that come up against a team who's battling for that playoff position, and the Blues are going to come along and do something absolutely trolly and just kill them and steal some points. Nothing in it for them now. The Blues, their season as a fight for the playoffs is pretty much over, so they'll be looking just to be annoying little pricks. And the way that the New Zealand conference is, you know, the Blues could really, very easily destroy some hopes and dreams with just 80 minutes of a good performance. The Blues could do it, but I think the Hurricanes are going to be too good. 39-18, I've got them to come up over the Blues and take the win in their return to Super Rugby. Okay, so we're moving away from Wellington, away to Amy Park. We go in Melbourne, where the Rebels are up against the Stormers. Tough call here for the Stormers to have that series against Ireland, and then all their Springbok players are jumping on a plane and coming to Australia next straight away. And it's really hard to call this one because the Rebels, I think, they're easily having their best year. There's no question about that. But with the break, Rebels not losing too many players, and they'll be coming fresh into this with a good break with most of their team, like the Reds, still intact. The Stormers, they've got a few players coming back into their side. Their captain, Scott Berger, of course, he'll be looking to lead this team from the front. He's a key man for them. And the travel is going to be the question. That's what it's going to come back to. Are the Rebels going to hit that form that they were at in the first half of the season, or are they going to be a bit of a slow starters? Will the Stormers come into travel over to Australia, and will they be able to find their feet straight away, or will they be slow starters as well? It's really a 50-50, this one, and it's kind of like it's the second beginning of Super Rugby. It's like round 1 2.0 kind of thing. That's what this is like between these two sides. Who is going to hit their straps first is the big question. I don't think there's going to be many points in this one, and I've got a scoreline of 19-11. The Stormers taking the win in their first match of their tour. Now we trip on over to Toyota Stadium in Bloemfontein, where the Cheetahs are up against the Western Force, and I could just repeat what I said about the Rebels and the Stormers. It's like, you know, starting all again. Two sides who have been inconsistent and not at their best, and now they've got the big question of starting all over again. The Cheetahs, I think, need to win this match more than anything in their season. They are miles behind the big four, you know, the Lions, the Sharks, the Bulls, and the Stormers. But they need to keep winning because they don't want to fall down into that real bottom bracket. They want to try and keep the competition up there with the top sides if they can manage it. This game against the Force is one that they really need to win, especially being at home. The Force, on the other hand, they've got a bit of a role like the Blues now. They need to try and spoil and upset and be that annoying little team that goes around getting those annoying little wins and putting teams completely off their playoff hopes. Although they're not going to damage too much if they do beat the Cheetahs, but the Cheetahs will want to not drop too low. They want to put the pressure on those top two sides in their conference and keep that winning form up. But it's going to be tough for the Cheetahs to keep that up all season. I think they need to do it here against the Force, who will be absolutely keen not to get the wooden spoon. That's where they currently are right now, in last position. So they need to absolutely step it up so they can avoid that last position come the end of the season. I've still got the Cheetahs coming out on top of this one, 22-15, which will give the Force a bonus point, which will go very, very nicely to their tally. Keeping things in South Africa, we're off to Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium, where the Springboks just played Ireland last weekend, so plenty of work to do there for the groundsmen to get that field ready for Super Rugby again. They're hosting the Highlanders, who another side that will start off their South African tour straight after the international break. Now there's a lot of changes in this Highlanders team. They got, I don't know if they're really calling it an issue, but to me it's an issue. No Aaron Smith, no Josh Renton, no Fumiaki Tanaka. They've got two new scrum halves in Toma and Booth. How are those two going to adapt their domestic players lower down, ITM Cup or Mitre 10 Cup, whatever it's called now? They've been called up from their club sides into the Highlanders. Now this is really, really, really going to be interesting to test these new players out, whether they're going to play. I mean, questions still about whether they're going to play Sopawanga in the match and whether Marty Banks is going to come in to start. I mean, there's a lot of questions about this Highlanders team. Again, it's what I spoke of before. Do you play your internationals straight back from international rugby, or do you give them a week off? Big questions that could have big repercussions on these two sides' tours as well. So it's a real acid test now for the Highlanders. The Kings, you'd expect them to beat quite easily, but the changes, the travel, the time of the season it is, means it's still going to be an interesting matchup. I do fully expect the Highlanders, though, to get the win, and they should always be too good for the Kings, even though the Kings, again, like the Reds, like the Rebels and the Force, don't have too many players leaving their squad for international duty, so it's going to be a big rest-up period for the Kings, and I hope they've learned how to tackle in the last 4 weeks, because they really need to sort that out. Their defensive patterns need a lot of work. So I think the Highlanders are going to come up on top of this one. I've probably gone a bit too high, but 63-28, I've gone big for the Highlanders on the road against the Kings. 2 matches remain in Super Rugby round 15, and we have the Lions at home. Ellis Park, they're up against the Sharks. This is a massive South African derby match as well. This is huge way to restart the season. I mean, we've got the Chiefs and the Crusaders. That's big. Hurricanes, Blues as well. Lions, Sharks. There is a lot of massive, massive matchups in this first week back of Super Rugby. But you got to look at the Lions, and you've got to look at the players who really stood up in the Springboks jumper, and they are really all Lions players who have stood up and got themselves to that next level. Now they're coming back Super Rugby. I expect that they'll continue on that great form in the Lions jumper. They really have to. The question is, again, who's going to start? Who's going to play? They'll be without Warren Whiteley, but players like Yantes, Mapu, Combrink, those guys are back. It'll mean the Lions are a lot more deadly. Yantes was amazing. I think he's the best player going around right now in the number 10 jumper, or probably in any back line. He is just playing so well. It's just a joy to watch, and when he's got attacking players outside him, he fits that Lions mould spectacularly. Now for the Sharks, the question I asked about the Sharks is, what tactics going to come out? You've had all these big players playing for South Africa. They're coming back to the Sharks now, having a different kind of game. Are they going to go back to this tackling, defence as tight as a water league, or are they going to try expand things a little more? Because I think if the Lions come up against a Sharks team that are just going to defend and look for mistakes, I think the Lions will wipe them away again, because the Lions just are too good on attack. The counter, broken play, set piece, anything like that, the Lions will rip you to shreds. The Sharks don't quite have that. They've got the players, but they don't have the game plan, and I think if the Sharks don't change the way they've played before the international break, the Lions will be far too good for this one, and they should pull out a big win, 36-22 over the Sharks. Right, we have one game remaining of round 15, 9 matches, absolute marathon of Super Rugby to get us back in the groove. It's going to be a tiring weekend, that is for sure. Last match is the Jaguares versus the Bulls. Now, this is an interesting one. The Jaguars are at home. Buenos Aires is the place, and this one could hold big implications for the pool as well. The Bulls, they're in a pretty big tussle for their top 2 places, and they need to keep that winning form going. The Jaguars at home, that'll be a bit of comfort for the home side after what's been a horrible international window for the Argentinians versus France. They're coming back now. They're on the end of a loss, which was their last match. That won't please them too well. But, this season, ultimately, in my opinion, the Jaguars have been very disappointing. I think I expected a lot more for them. I expect them to get the playoffs. We haven't seen that form from the Jaguars, and we probably won't see it again against the Bulls, a team that has shown over the last few weeks before the international break that they know how to attack. The Bulls are a very, very good attacking team, and they've got that ability to absolutely tear teams to ribbons. We saw them really get into their counter-attack and broken play and destroy sides through that in the last few weeks of the competition, just before the international break. Can they continue that? That is the question. Will they keep that going, that flowing attack from the Bulls? I sure do hope so, because it was exciting to watch the Bulls getting that sort of game on. A team that's traditionally been very, very forward-based. The Argentinians, the Jaguars on their other hand, experienced a lot of the same errors that the Argentinian side did over the international break. Ill-discipline, silly penalties, giving points away for jam. That's something they need to cut out. They really need to sort that out this season, or it might not even get any better for them. To get the win over the Bulls would be huge, but I can't see it coming. I think it might be close. I hope the Jaguars do come to play, but I think the Bulls will take it out 33-28, the Bulls to win it, but I think it might be an entertaining matchup between the two sides. I sure do hope so. Alright, that wraps me up for our 9 matches of Super Rugby this weekend. Again, a marathon of rugby. It's great to have Super Rugby back. Super exciting to have the competition back following the internationals. It all kicks off on Friday nights. I'll be around for some matches. If you're about and have something to say, do get me involved as well. I'm always on Twitter to have a good chat about the matches, so hit me up on there and catch the name on the end of this video, or of course just at Cornflakes Crib. You can find me there, and of course don't forget to put your picks in for the matches this weekend, and of course the best picks we'll get a special mention next week in the match review of round 15. But until then, thanks for tuning and watching. Hope you've enjoyed the preview, and I'll see you all next time. Until then, take care.